First contact, humanity's bold leap. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the U.S. horizon, humanity's first faster-than-light vessel. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen as stars streaked by in brilliant lines of light. After centuries of dreaming, decades of preparation, and years of construction, humanity had finally broken free of its solar system. Status report, Elena called out, her voice steady despite the excitement coursing through her veins. Her first officer, Commander Akira Tanaka, responded promptly. All systems nominal, Captain. We're maintaining FTL speed as planned. ETA to the Proxima Centauri system is 72 hours. Elena nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Excellent. It seems our Alcubierre drive is performing even better than the simulations predicted. As she spoke, Dr. Samantha Chen, the ship's lead xenobiologist, entered the bridge. Captain, I've been analyzing the long-range sensor data. There's something unusual about Proxima Centauri b. Elena raised an eyebrow. Unusual how, Doctor? Samantha's eyes gleamed with excitement. The atmospheric composition has changed dramatically since our last observations from Earth. There are traces of elements that suggest, well, it's premature to say, but... Out with it, Doctor, Elena urged. There might be signs of artificial structures on the surface. A hush fell over the bridge. The implications were staggering. If true, it meant humanity wasn't venturing into uncharted space alone. They were about to make first contact. The next 72 hours were a flurry of activity. Every crew member, from the seasoned officers to the youngest ensigns, felt the weight of history on their shoulders. They were no longer just explorers. They were ambassadors for the entire human race. As they dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Proxima Centauri system, the crew of the U.S. Horizon got their first real-time look at humanity's nearest stellar neighbor. Proxima Centauri loomed large on the viewscreen, a swirling marble of blue and green that looked eerily like Earth. "My God," Akira whispered, "it's beautiful." Elena nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Begin standard approach vector. All hands to first contact stations." As they entered orbit, the ship's sensors came alive with data. Samantha's earlier observations were confirmed. There were indeed artificial structures on the surface. Cities, if their readings were correct, sprawling across the planet's equatorial regions. "Captain," the communications officer called out, her voice trembling slightly. We're receiving a transmission. It's not one of ours." Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. On screen. The view screen flickered, and suddenly they were face to face with something utterly alien. The being before them had iridescent, scale-like skin and large, multifaceted eyes. When it spoke, its words were translated by the ship's advanced AI. "Greetings, travelers. We are the Zarakan. We welcome you to our world." Elena stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the U.S. Horizon, representing the United Earth Alliance. We come in peace and friendship." The alien, the Zarakan, seemed to ripple with colors. "Your arrival was foretold in our ancient prophecies. The people from the third stone. We have awaited this day for millennia." As the initial shock wore off, Elena found herself engaged in a surreal diplomatic dance. The Zarakan, it turned out, had been observing Earth for centuries. They had chosen not to make contact, waiting instead for humanity to reach out to the stars on its own. Over the next few days, cultural exchanges began. Small delegations from the horizon were allowed to visit the surface, while Zarakan representatives came aboard the ship. The differences between their species were vast, but so too were the similarities. Both races valued knowledge, exploration, and the pursuit of understanding the universe around them. However, as the initial euphoria of first contact began to fade, Elena noticed a growing unease among the Zarakan. Something was bothering them, something they were reluctant to share. It was during a private meeting with the Zarkhan High Council that the truth finally came out. The eldest of the councillors, his scales a muted silver, fixed Elena with all four of his eyes. "Captain Rodriguez," he began, his translator struggling to convey the gravity in his tone, "we have not been entirely forthcoming with you. Our joy at your arrival is genuine, but it is tempered by a great fear." Elena leaned forward, her instincts on high alert. "What do you mean?" "Your arrival was indeed prophesied," the councillor continued, "but so too was what follows. A great darkness comes, Captain, a threat that neither of our races can face alone." As the councillor spoke, holographic images appeared in the center of the room. They showed vast armadas of ships, worlds burning, entire solar systems being consumed by some unseen force. "We call them the Void Runners," the councillor explained. "They are ancient, powerful, and utterly ruthless. They seek to harvest the energy of entire galaxies, destroying all life in their wake. According to our calculations, they will reach this arm of the galaxy within 5 of your Earth years." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. First contact had brought not just new friends, but a terrifying new enemy. As she looked at the images of destruction before her, she knew that the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy now rested on humanity's shoulders. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice firm with resolve. "If we're going to face this threat, we'll need every advantage we can get." As the councillor began to detail the history of the Void Runners, Elena's mind raced. Humanity had just taken its first steps into the cosmos, and already they were being thrust into a galactic conflict. But as she thought of Earth, of all they had overcome to reach this point, she felt a surge of determination. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before and survived. They had endured ice ages, pandemics, and their own self-destructive tendencies. Each time, they had emerged stronger, more unified, more resilient. This would be their greatest test yet, but Elena was certain of one thing: humanity would not go quietly into the night. As the meeting concluded, Elena stood, her posture straight and determined. "Thank you for sharing this with us," she said to the Zarkhan Council. "Rest assured, Earth will stand with you against this threat. We may be new to the galactic stage, but we are fast learners and fierce fighters. The Void Runners have no idea what they're in for." With that, Elena left the council chambers, her mind already formulating plans. She would need to contact Earth to prepare them for what was to come. But first, she had a crew to brief and a ship to ready. The US Horizon had come seeking new frontiers. Instead, they had found a war for survival. As she walked back to her ship, Elena allowed herself a grim smile. If the Void Runners thought they could simply sweep through this galaxy unopposed, they were in for a rude awakening. Humanity had just entered the galactic scene, and they had no intention of exiting it anytime soon. The stars above seemed to shine brighter as Elena boarded the horizon. Humanity's great leap into the cosmos had become a headlong plunge into galactic conflict. But as she looked at her crew, she saw not fear, but determination. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And so, as the US Horizon prepared to break orbit and begin its journey home, the first chapter in humanity's cosmic saga came to a close. But the story, Elena knew, was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The Romulus enigma, unraveling alien secrets. The journey back to Earth was tense, filled with feverish preparation and strategic planning. Captain Elena Rodriguez spent most of her time in conference with her senior staff, poring over the data provided by the Zarkhan. As the blue marble of humanity's homeworld came into view, Elena steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The news of first contact and the looming threat sent shockwaves through Earth's governments and populace. The United Earth Alliance convened an emergency session, and Elena found herself addressing world leaders barely 24 hours after touchdown. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing through the grand chamber, "we stand at a crossroads. The universe has revealed itself to be both wondrous and terrifying. The Void Runners pose an existential threat not just to Earth, but to all life in our galaxy. We have 5 years to prepare. 5 years to advance our technology, bolster our defenses, and forge a united front with the Zarkon. It won't be easy, but I believe humanity is equal to this challenge. The response was swift and unprecedented. Old rivalries were set aside as nations pooled their resources. The next few months saw a flurry of activity as Earth geared up for the greatest technological leap in its history. Dr. Samantha Chen, now heading a global xenobiology initiative, made a breakthrough 6 months into their preparations. Captain, she called, her excitement palpable even over the comm link. We've decoded more of the Zarkon historical records. There's mention of an ancient weapon, something called the Romulus array. It was supposedly capable of disrupting the Void Runner's energy harvesting technology. Elena's interest was piqued. Where is this weapon now? That's the thing, Samantha replied, her voice tinged with frustration. The records are incomplete. They mention a star system called Romulus, but its location was lost ages ago. The Zarkon believed it to be nothing more than a myth. Elena's mind raced with possibilities. But if it's real and we find it, it could turn the tide of the war before it even begins, Samantha finished. The search for Romulus became humanity's new obsession. Every telescope, every sensor array, every supercomputer was dedicated to the task. Meanwhile, production of a new fleet of warships, based on a fusion of human ingenuity and Zarkon technology, continued at a breakneck pace. 3 years into their preparation, with the Void Runner's arrival growing ever closer, they got their first lead. A young astrophysicist named Malik Adenuga noticed an anomaly in the data from a pulsar survey. There's a star system that shouldn't be there, he explained to Elena and her team. Its gravitational effect on surrounding stars is clear, but we can't see it. It's as if something is hiding it from view. It was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. Elena wasted no time in assembling a mission. The U.S. Horizon, now upgraded with the latest tech, would lead a small fleet to investigate this hidden star system. As they approached the coordinates Malik had provided, tension on the bridge was palpable. Anything on sensors? Elena asked, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen showing nothing but empty space. Commander Akira Tanaka shook his head. Nothing, Captain. But the gravitational readings confirm it. There's definitely something here. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Alarms blared as systems began to flicker. We're caught in some kind of energy field, Akira shouted over the noise. Elena gripped her chair, barking orders to stabilize the ship. Just as suddenly as it began, the shaking stopped. The viewscreen flickered, and a breathtaking sight appeared before them. A massive star system materialized out of nowhere. At its center, a red giant star pulsed ominously. Orbiting it were not planets, but what appeared to be colossal structures, rings the size of planetary orbits, crisscrossing in complex patterns. My God, Elena whispered. We found it. Romulus. As they ventured deeper into the system, the true scale of the ancient civilization that had built this became clear. The rings were not just structures, but vast machines, their purpose yet unknown. They sat down on what appeared to be a central control hub. Elena led the away team, her heart pounding as they stepped into the alien structure. The interior was dark, seemingly dormant, but as they moved deeper, systems began to flicker to life around them. They reached what appeared to be a central chamber. A holographic interface sprang to life, displaying symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. It's adapting to us, she breathed, learning our language in real time. As if in response to her words, the symbols coalesced into recognizable text. A message appeared before them. Welcome, children of Earth. You have been deemed worthy to wield the power of Romulus. But beware, great power demands great responsibility. Are you prepared for the burden? Elena stepped forward, her voice firm. We are. Our galaxy faces a threat that could extinguish all life. We seek the means to defend it. The chamber hummed, and new text appeared. The Void Runners return. The cycle continues. But perhaps this time, the outcome may be different. Prepare yourselves, for the key to victory lies not in weapons, but in understanding. Suddenly, Elena and her team found themselves immersed in a stream of information. The history of the Romulus civilization, the nature of the Void Runners, the fundamental forces of the universe. Knowledge poured into their minds faster than they could process. When it ended, they stood in stunned silence. Elena was the first to speak, her voice hoarse. We need to get this information back to Earth, and to the Zarakan." As they prepared to leave, a final message appeared. "The power of Romulus is now yours to command. Use it wisely, for the fate of all rests in your hands." The structures around them hummed to life, energy coursing through the ancient machines. Elena realized they had just acquired a weapon of unimaginable power and an equally immense responsibility. As the US horizon broke orbit, the Romulus system vanished behind them, hidden once more from prying eyes. Elena stood on the bridge, her mind reeling from the knowledge they'd gained. They had found more than just a weapon. They had uncovered the key to understanding the very nature of their enemy, and perhaps the universe itself. But with less than 2 years until the Void Runner's arrival, the question remained, would it be enough? As they set course for Earth, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The power of Romulus was theirs, but wielding it effectively against the Void Runners would require everything humanity and the Zarakan could muster. The race against time had entered its final, crucial phase. Alliance and betrayal, human ingenuity tested. The return to Earth was met with a mixture of jubilation and trepidation. The knowledge gained from Romulus was both a blessing and a burden. As Elena and her team worked tirelessly to disseminate and understand the vast amount of information they had acquired, the rest of humanity continued its frantic preparations for the coming storm. Dr. Samantha Chen led a team of Earth's brightest minds in deciphering the complex physics behind the Romulus array. "It's not just a weapon," she explained during a high-level briefing. "It's a tool for manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. The Void Runners harvest energy by causing localized entropy reversals. This array can potentially counteract that process." Meanwhile, Commander Akira Tanaka oversaw the integration of Romulus technology into Earth's growing fleet. The advancements were staggering: ships that could bend space, weapons that could disrupt the very laws of physics, and defensive systems that seemed to border on the impossible. As the deadline drew nearer, a joint Earth-Zarakan military force began to take shape. The Zarakan, with their centuries of spacefaring experience, provided invaluable tactical knowledge. Humanity, with its adaptability and the newfound power of Romulus, brought innovation and unpredictability to the table. It was during this time of feverish activity that the first cracks in the alliance began to show. Elena was in the middle of a strategy session when an urgent message came through from the Zarakan homeworld. The alien face that appeared on the screen was etched with concern. "Captain Rodriguez," the Zarakan ambassador began, "we have detected a grave security breach. Classified information about our defenses has been transmitted to an unknown location outside our combined territories." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying we have a spy in our midst?" The ambassador's scales rippled in what Elena had come to recognize as a sign of distress. "Worse, we have traced the transmission to Romulus Array Control Center." The implications were staggering. If someone with access to Romulus technology was leaking information, the consequences could be catastrophic. Elena immediately ordered a full security lockdown and initiated an investigation. What they uncovered shook the very foundations of the Earth-Zarakan alliance. A small faction of humans, led by a charismatic but misguided scientist named Dr. Marcus Blackwood, had been in secret communication with a splinter group of the Void Runners. Blackwood, when finally confronted, was unrepentant. "You don't understand," he said, his eyes fevered with misplaced zeal. "The Void Runners aren't our enemies. They're our salvation. They offered to spare Earth if we help them harvest the rest of the galaxy. It's us or them, don't you see? Elena felt a mix of disgust and pity. And you believed them? You were willing to sacrifice countless worlds to betray not just humanity, but every living being in the galaxy. Blackwood's capture put an end to the immediate security threat, but the damage to trust between humans and Zarakan was severe. Many Zarakan questioned whether humans could be trusted with the power of Romulus. Some human factions, in turn, began to wonder if the Zarakan had hidden agendas of their own. It fell to Elena to try and salvage the situation. In a joint session of Earth's leadership and the Zarakan High Council, she took the floor. "What happened is inexcusable," she began, her voice firm. "But it is not indicative of humanity as a whole. Yes, there will always be those among us who give in to fear, who make the wrong choices. But for every Blackwood, there are millions of humans ready to stand and fight for what's right." She paused, looking each council member in the eye. "The Void Runners are counting on division, on mistrust. If we let this incident tear us apart, we've already lost. But if we stand together, if we choose to trust in the better angels of our nature, there is nothing we cannot overcome." Her words seemed to resonate, easing some of the tension in the room. But Elena knew that actions would speak louder than words. In the days that followed, she worked tirelessly to rebuild trust, implementing new security protocols and fostering closer cooperation between human and Zarakan teams. As the final year before the Void Runner's arrival began, the Alliance found itself stronger for having weathered this crisis. The attempted betrayal had forced both species to confront their fears and prejudices, ultimately bringing them closer together. But even as preparations entered their final stages, Elena couldn't shake a sense of unease. Blackwood's group had been stopped, but had they truly found and eliminated all the collaborators? And what information had already made its way to the Void Runners? As she stood on the bridge of the flagship of Earth's new fleet, christened the US Unity, Elena gazed out at the assembled armada. Ships of human and Zarakan design floated side by side, a testament to what they had achieved together. At the center of it all, the Romulus array hummed with potential, its true power yet untested. "Status report," she called out, falling back on familiar routine to calm her nerves. "All systems nominal, Captain," Akira responded from his station. "The fleet is in formation and awaiting your orders." Elena nodded, taking a deep breath. They had done all they could to prepare. Now, all that remained was to face whatever came next. "Send word to all ships," she said, her voice steady. "We move out in 1 hour. Our destination, the edge of the solar system. It's time we take the fight to the Void Runners." As the crew bustled into action around her, Elena allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had come so far, overcome so much. Whatever the Void Runners threw at them, she knew that the combined strength, ingenuity, and determination of humans and Zarakan would be more than a match. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to prove its worth among the stars. The galactic crucible, humanity's stand. The journey to the outer reaches of the solar system was tense, filled with final preparations and strategy meetings. Elena spent much of her time in the war room of the US Unity, surrounded by holograms depicting fleet movements and potential battle scenarios. As they approached the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's influence gave way to interstellar space, long-range sensors began picking up disturbances. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, her voice tight with tension. "We're detecting massive energy fluctuations at the edge of the Oort cloud. It matches the Zarakan descriptions of Void Runner activity." Elena's jaw clenched. "They're early. Broadcast to all ships, battle stations. This is not a drill." The fleet came alive with activity. Shields hummed to life, weapons systems powered up, and crews steeled themselves for the coming conflict. As they pushed past the heliopause, they got their first visual on the enemy. The sight was terrifying beyond imagination. The Void Runners' ships, if they could be called that, were more like tears in the fabric of space itself. Dark, writhing masses that seemed to absorb light, surrounded by swirling vortexes of energy. "My God," Akira whispered beside her. "How do we fight that?" Elena straightened her back, pushing down her own fear. "We fight it with everything we've got. All ships engage as planned. Activate the Romulus array." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as one of the most extraordinary conflicts in galactic history. Human ingenuity and adaptability, combined with Zarkon experience and the power of Romulus technology, clashed against the eldritch might of the Void Runners. The Romulus array sprang to life, creating a web of energy that spread throughout the human Zarkon fleet. It allowed their ships to move in ways that defied conventional physics, darting in and out of the Void Runner's reach. But the enemy was powerful beyond reckoning. Where their dark ships passed, space itself seemed to warp and tear. Several human and Zarkon vessels were lost in the opening salvos, pulled into swirling vortexes of impossible energy. Elena gritted her teeth as the Unity rocked from a near miss. "We need to push harder. Dr. Chen, can we increase power to the array?" Samantha's voice came back strained over the comm. "We're already at 90% capacity, Captain. Pushing it further could destabilize the entire system." "Do it," Elena ordered. "We need every advantage we can get." As the array's power increased, Elena felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was bending around them. The Unity moved with impossible speed and precision, its weapons finding weak points in the Void Runner's defenses that shouldn't have existed. For a moment, it seemed like they might be gaining the upper hand, but then, at the heart of the Void Runner fleet, a massive rift began to open. "Energy readings are off the charts," the sensor officer shouted. "Whatever's coming through that rift, it's bigger than anything we've seen yet." Elena watched in horror as a colossal entity emerged from the rift. It dwarfed even the largest Void Runner ships, its form a roiling mass of darkness that seemed to devour the very stars around it. "This is it," Elena realized. "Their leader, the one the Zarkon warned us about." As if in response to her thoughts, a psychic assault slammed into the fleet. Crew members cried out in pain, some collapsing at their stations. Elena felt as if her mind was being torn apart, filled with visions of cosmic horror and despair. But amidst the pain, she felt something else. A connection, not just to her crew, but to every being in the fleet, human and Zarkon alike, their minds linked through the Romulus array in ways they had never anticipated. With a supreme effort of will, Elena pushed back against the psychic attack. "We are not alone," she shouted, her voice carrying not just through the ship's comm, but directly into the minds of every allied soldier. "We stand together. For Earth, for Zarkon, for every living being in this galaxy." Her defiance sparked a response. Across the fleet, humans and Zarkon alike found new reserves of strength and determination. The Romulus array pulsed with power, creating a psychic shield that pushed back against the Void Runner assault. In that moment of unity, Elena saw a path to victory. "All ships," she commanded, her voice resonating through the mental link, "focus your fire on the rift. We need to close their doorway." The combined firepower of the fleet, augmented by the reality-walking power of the Romulus array, converged on the spatial tear. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent scream that echoed through the minds of all present, the rift began to collapse. The massive Void Runner entity fought against the collapse, its tendrils of darkness lashing out in all directions. Several more ships were lost, torn apart by the chaotic energies being released. "We need more power," Elena shouted, feeling the strain through the mental link. "Everything you've got, pour it into the array." Across the fleet, crews pushed their ships beyond designed limits. The Romulus array blazed with energy, brighter than a newborn star. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend around them. With a final, reality-shaking implosion, the rift collapsed. The Void Runner leader, caught between dimensions, was torn apart. The psychic backlash knocked out communications across the fleet, leaving them in eerie silence. As systems slowly came back online, Elena looked out at the battlefield. The remaining Void Runner ships, cut off from their home dimension and leaderless, were retreating, falling back into the depths of space. We did it," Akira said, his voice filled with awe and exhaustion. Elena nodded, feeling the weight of command more heavily than ever before. "We did, but at what cost?" As damage reports began to flood in, Elena knew that the victory, while decisive, had come at a terrible price. Many good people, human and Zarkon alike, had given their lives to secure this triumph. But as she looked out at the stars, somehow brighter now that the shadow of the Void Runners had been lifted, Elena felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced an enemy that by all rights should have annihilated them, and they had emerged victorious. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. They had shown that they could stand alongside the Zarkon as true allies, and that together, they could face any threat the universe might throw at them. As the fleet began the long journey home, Elena knew that this was not an end, but a beginning. The galaxy was a vast and wondrous place, filled with marvels and dangers beyond imagination, and humanity, tempered by this trial by fire, was ready to take its place among the stars. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The era of galactic citizenship had begun. Echoes of Earth, resilience in the face of extinction. The journey back to Earth was somber, a stark contrast to the jubilant atmosphere that had preceded their departure. The fleet limped home, battered but unbroken, carrying with it the weight of victory and the sorrow of loss. As they approached the familiar blue marble of their home planet, Elena stood on the bridge of the U.S. Unity, her posture rigid, her eyes fixed on the view screen. The ship's AI spoke up, its voice soft. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Central Command." Elena nodded, bracing herself. "Put it through." The face of Admiral Zhang, the head of the United Earth Alliance's military forces, appeared on screen. His expression was a mixture of relief and concern. "Captain Rodriguez, on behalf of Earth and all its people, welcome home. Your victory against the Void Runners will be remembered for generations to come." "Thank you, Admiral," Elena replied, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "But the cost?" John's expression softened. "We know, Elena. The sacrifices made will not be forgotten. But right now, we need you and your crew planetside immediately. There have been developments." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of developments, sir?" "It's better if you see for yourself. Report to Geneva as soon as you land." Zhang out. As the transmission cut off, Elena turned to her crew. "You heard the Admiral. Akira, you have the con. Get our people home safely. I'll take a shuttle down with a small team." Hours later, Elena found herself in a secure briefing room deep beneath the UAA headquarters in Geneva. Admiral Zhang, along with representatives from major Earth governments and a delegation of Zarkon, were waiting for her. "Captain," Zhang began without preamble, "while you and the fleet were engaged with the Void Runners, we detected anomalies across the planet. Spatial distortions, energy fluctuations unlike anything we've seen before." A holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room, showing a map of Earth. Red dots appeared across the globe, pulsing ominously. Dr. Chen, who had accompanied Elena to the briefing, leaned forward, her eyes wide. "These patterns, they're similar to the entropy reversal effect we saw from the Void Runners, but on a much smaller scale." The Zarkon ambassador, his scales a muted blue of concern, spoke up. "We fear that your victory may not have been as complete as we hoped. It seems the Void Runners left something behind." Elena felt her heart sink. "Are you saying we're dealing with some kind of Void Runner infestation on Earth?" Zhang nodded grimly. "That's our working theory. We've quarantined the affected areas, but they're growing, and we're detecting signs of changes in the local flora and fauna." The holographic display zoomed in on one of the red zones. Elena watched in horror as images showed familiar Earth landscapes warped into alien vistas, trees twisted into impossible shapes, their leaves shimmering with unearthly colors. Animals moved in ways that defied natural law, their forms fluid and ever-changing. "My God," Elena whispered, "it's like the Void Runners are trying to reshape Earth in their image." Dr. Chen's fingers flew over her datapad. "It's not just reshaping," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "These changes are spreading at an exponential rate. If we don't find a way to stop it, the entire planet could be transformed within months." The room erupted into a flurry of discussion and debate. Plans were proposed and discarded in rapid succession. Through it all, Elena remained silent, her mind racing. Finally, she spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The Romulus array." All eyes turned to her. "We used it to close the Void Runner's rift," Elena continued. "What if we could reconfigure it to counteract these changes on a planetary scale?" Dr. Chen's eyes lit up. "It's possible. The array was designed to manipulate space-time on a fundamental level. If we could create a counter-resonance to the Void Runner energy." "It could work," the Zarakan ambassador agreed. "But the power requirements would be enormous. And the risks." Elena met his gaze steadily. "The risk of doing nothing is greater. This is our home. We'll do whatever it takes to save it." Over the next weeks, a plan took shape. The Romulus array would be brought into Earth orbit, reconfigured to emit a planet-wide field that would, theoretically, nullify the Void Runner influence and restore Earth's natural laws. As preparations were made, Elena found herself in the thick of the action once more. She coordinated with teams on the ground, venturing into the transformed zones to gather data crucial for calibrating the array. The sights she witnessed would haunt her for years to come. Entire cities warped into crystalline structures that pulsed with alien life, forests where the laws of physics seemed more like suggestions, and through it all, a sense of wrongness that cut to the very soul. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of preparation, they were ready. The Romulus array hung in low Earth orbit, its massive structure dwarfing even the largest satellites. Elena stood in the control center, surrounded by the best minds Earth and the Zarakan had to offer. "All systems a go," Dr. Chen reported, her voice tense with anticipation. "Initiating the field in 3, 2, 1. The array came to life, bathing the Earth in a soft, pulsing glow. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first, but with gathering speed, the changes began to reverse. Across the globe, the alien landscapes began to shift back to their natural state. Trees straightened, animals regained their proper forms, and the very air seemed to clear of an intangible wrongness. But it wasn't without cost. The strain on the array was immense, far beyond what they had anticipated. Alarms blared as systems began to overload. "We're losing containment," one of the technicians shouted. "If we don't shut it down, the array could tear itself apart." Elena's mind raced. They were so close. To stop now would mean leaving the job half done, potentially allowing the Void Runner influence to regain its foothold. In that moment, Elena made a decision that would be debated for years to come. "Reroute all power to the main emitters," she ordered. "We push through to the end, no matter the cost." "But Captain," Dr. Chen protested, "the array might not survive." Elena met her gaze steadily. "Then we'll rebuild it. But we only get one shot at this. We have to see it through." As the array's power output reached critical levels, the transformation of Earth accelerated. In a matter of hours, the last traces of Void Runner influence were scored from the planet. With a final earth-shaking pulse, the array went dark. Debris rained down across the globe as the massive structure broke apart, its mission complete. As the dust settled, Elena looked out over a world reborn. The scars of the Void Runner incursion would take time to heal fully, but Earth was itself again. More importantly, humanity had once again proven its resilience in the face of near extinction. As cleanup efforts began and the long process of rebuilding started, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had faced the unimaginable and emerged victorious, not once but twice. The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, a reminder of the vast frontier that awaited them. Humanity had been tested, and they had proven themselves worthy of their place among the galactic community. Whatever challenges the future held, Elena knew one thing for certain: Earth and its people would face them head-on, with the same determination and ingenuity that had seen them through their darkest hour. The age of cosmic citizenship had truly begun, and humanity was ready to embrace its destiny among the stars. Beyond the stars, humanity's triumph. 5 years had passed since the Void Runner incursion and Earth's subsequent transformation and restoration. The planet had healed, its scars fading into memory, but the impact of those events had forever changed humanity's place in the cosmos. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive space habitat orbiting Earth. The station served as the headquarters for the newly formed Galactic Cooperative, an alliance of species dedicated to mutual protection and exploration. As she gazed out at the stars, Elena reflected on how far they had come. The defeat of the Void Runners had not only saved Earth, but had also attracted the attention of other spacefaring races. The Zarakan, once humanity's sole alien allies, had introduced them to a wider galactic community. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her. Elena turned to see Dr. Samantha Chen approaching, a holographic display flickering to life between them. The latest data from the Andromeda expedition, Samantha explained, her eyes shining with excitement. "We've confirmed the presence of Romulus-type technology in the satellite galaxies. It seems the ancient civilization that created the array had a far wider reach than we initially thought." Elena nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. And to think, just a few years ago, we hadn't even left our own solar system. Now we're exploring other galaxies. Their conversation was interrupted by a chime from Elena's communicator. "Admiral," the voice of her aide came through, "the Galactic Council is assembling for the vote. Your presence is requested." Elena straightened her uniform, sharing a meaningful look with Samantha. "This is it," she said. "Wish me luck." The council chamber was a marvel of alien architecture, a blend of styles from a dozen different species. Representatives from across the known galaxy were in attendance, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. As Elena took her place at the podium, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Here she was, a woman from Earth, about to address beings from worlds she had once only dreamed about. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "We stand at a crossroads. The threat of the Void Runners may have been pushed back, but it is not gone. Our recent discoveries in Andromeda prove that the challenges we face extend far beyond our own galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity proposes the formation of an intergalactic defense initiative, a joint force combining the strengths and technologies of all our peoples, dedicated to protecting not just our galaxy, but all galaxies from threats like the Void Runners. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Elena continued, her passion evident in every word. "We have seen what we can achieve when we work together. The Romulus array, once thought to be merely a weapon, has proven to be a key to understanding the very fabric of the universe. With it, we can build defenses that span galaxies, create communication networks that defy our current understanding of physics, and explore realms we have yet to imagine." As she spoke, holographic displays came to life around the chamber, showcasing the proposed technologies and strategies. The assembled representatives leaned forward, their attention rapt. "But more than that," Elena said, her voice softening, "this initiative represents a fundamental shift in how we view our place in the cosmos. No longer are we isolated species, confined to our own worlds or even our own galaxies. We are citizens of a vast, interconnected universe, and it is our responsibility to protect and nurture that connection." The chamber fell silent as Elena concluded her speech. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the station's systems. Then, slowly at first but with growing enthusiasm, applause began to fill the room. Representatives stood, their varied appendages creating a cacophony of sound that transcended species and culture. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. The Intergalactic Defense Initiative was approved, with Earth and humanity at its heart. As the council adjourned, Elena found herself surrounded by alien diplomats, all eager to discuss the details of this ambitious new project. But her eyes sought out one face in particular. The Zarakan ambassador, the same one who had first welcomed humanity to the galactic stage, approached her. His scales shimmered with colors that Elena had learned to recognize as pride and joy. "You have come so far," he said, his translator conveying the warmth in his voice. From a species taking its first steps into space to the architects of an intergalactic alliance, we were right to put our faith in humanity. Elena felt a lump form in her throat. "We couldn't have done it without you," she replied. "Your guidance, your trust, it meant everything." The ambassador's multifaceted eyes seemed to twinkle. "Perhaps, but it was your species' unique blend of ingenuity, determination, and compassion that truly made the difference. The galaxy, no, the universe, is a better place with humanity in it." As they stood there, surrounded by the representatives of countless worlds, Elena felt a profound sense of both accomplishment and responsibility. Humanity had not only secured its place among the stars, but had become a driving force for unity and progress on a cosmic scale. The challenges ahead were immense: building an intergalactic defense network, continuing to unravel the mysteries of Romulus technology, preparing for the eventual return of the Void Runners. These were tasks that would take generations to complete. But as Elena looked out at the assembled beings, each unique yet united in purpose, she knew that they were equal to the task. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had reached for the stars and found not just new frontiers, but new family. The future stretched out before them, vast and full of possibility. And humanity, once a small, isolated species on a tiny blue planet, was ready to help shape that future for the betterment of all. As the council chamber emptied, Elena took one last look at the stars visible through the station's massive windows. Each point of light represented not just new worlds to explore, but new allies to meet, new challenges to overcome, and new wonders to discover. With a smile, she turned away from the view and headed back to her duties. The next chapter in humanity's grand cosmic adventure was just beginning, and Elena Rodriguez was ready to help write it. The stars awaited, and humanity had finally, truly come home.